session, which is on cryptocurrency, is nothing if not about the future. This session is really going to discuss what the rise of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other major players in the digital currency means for the hospitality industry. From enhancing payment security and loyalty programs to improving the speed and ease of transactions. There's really a significant number of reasons why hoteliers may want to consider this blockchain-based currency. Today we have 4 experts here to discuss this in more detail, so please join me in welcoming them to the stage. First is Bo Friedel, president of Sunrise Salvador. Next is Craig Nazaro, partner of Nelson Mullins. Then David Khalif, head of operations at Verity Funds. And our moderator today is Ron Taro, the managing director of Salient Voice Ventures. Welcome.
Oh. Keep going, keep going. Okay, before I start, how many people have some cryptocurrency? Raise your hands. Oh, and then you don't have to tell me how much, because obviously that's the $5 wrench attack problem. Yeah. Okay, so about half. So it was interesting. I was looking at the survey and the entire panel. 29% said blockchain is important, and 23% said crypto is. So noted that people are holding it more than they're prioritizing it in hospitality. Anyway, let me just give you the shape of this. We have very little time and some people with deep backgrounds here. So Bo is running a hotel in El Salvador, and they're running on Bitcoin. So at least with dollars and Bitcoin. And we're gonna really kind of make him the center of our conversation, going, how is that working, and what are you doing, what's going on? Craig is a fintech. He's into law and in crypto, and basically kind of helped me unpack everything that Bo's experiencing right now with El Salvador, but also then how does this translate into coming into the United States? And then David down the end actually runs an ETF, is part of an ETF group that invests in the Bitcoin in the mining world. And so very much on the financing side of all the companies that are in this space. So with that in mind, I want to just make sure I've level set, because half of you seem to have some coin and half of you don't kind of number. And so let me just take a few moments to define stuff. There's a conversation about blockchain. Let's be very clear about what that is. That is the software and cryptography architecture that's underlying all these coins. Bitcoin is one application of that. We're not going to talk about blockchain today, because there's lots of other uses for it in a bunch of other places. There's also all this other stuff you read about, not the least of which Dogecoin, the people's coin, and all these other, I'll call it altcoins. Not talking about any of that either today. We can be talking about NFTs, if you've heard of those. We're going to do one thing, which is Bitcoin. A little bit on the reference of the introduction here, the future is now, it's just not evenly distributed. And my sense is what Bo's doing here is part of that not evenly distributed. He's certainly out front on this. For those of you who are in a complete mystery as to what crypto is, I'm just going to give you a basic analogy. And I'll do it this way. If I were to send an email to you with a Word document, having sent that email to you, there would now be 2 copies of the email. Fundamental weakness of the internet today, right? The blockchain and Bitcoin in the case of coin today is essentially allows me to move that document such that I don't have it, you do, or I have that coin and you don't. And it does it very, very interestingly without a bank, without a trusted intermediary. So with that in mind, we're not going to go down all that road, but I just wanted to make sure that you understood what's going on as you're seeing the movement of money based on software now and based on the internet, and not on all of the banking infrastructure that you see today. This is either great excitement or great fear, depending on what industry you're in, but it's certainly interesting for us. So to start this thing out, El Salvador did something remarkable. They've made Bitcoin legal tender, and I wanted to just start with you, Bo, and just say, what did El Salvador do? And then what is it, How is it applying into the hotels and all the folks on Bitcoin Beach?
Yeah, so basically, Bitcoin is a currency. So the way that you think about US dollars in the United States, that's how Bitcoin is now in El Salvador. It's not a security, it's not some other store of value, it is a currency. El Salvador also uses US dollar as its official currency, so there's not the problem of currency destabilization if you're talking about some other Latin American country. So it was easier to make the change. But basically what the government said was that every single vendor must accept Bitcoin if the buyer wants to pay in Bitcoin. Now, some vendors said they didn't want to do that, of course, but what the government then did was they created an application that would receive the Bitcoin and convert it immediately without a fee into dollars. So right now, the government is eating the conversion fee through the application that they created, and that application is the Chivo Wallet.
Okay. So Chivo Wallet is basically developed by the government, and the citizens were provided a copy?
So
how many are using it?
The Chivo Wallet was commissioned by the government, was developed with the teams at Strike and at Athena, which is a Chicago-based Bitcoin crypto space computer software development company. They did a great job. In 3 months, they put together this app that's Lightning enabled, on-chain enabled, and allows people with a very low level of financial sophistication and education to transfer between the two.
Okay. I'm going to come back to Wallet and have David talk a little bit about what is one. But rather, let's just stay on track with the hotel. So I'm a guest. I'm going to check into the hotel. I have a wallet, right? You want what's in my wallet. Actually, that's probably a misnomer, by the way, what a wallet is, but we'll get there. How does it work? If I stapled myself to a Bitcoin coming through the guest experience, where is the Bitcoin going? When is it transferred? Basically, how does that all flow? Wallet to wallet?
So the way El Salvador works is if the people don't pay in advance, they don't show up. So what we do is we make sure that everyone pays a 50% reservation confirmation fee.
So you don't do give me your credit card number just in case you walk on me so I can charge your card.
Right.
You take a 50%.
Because the credit cards don't really work that way. You can't charge it unless they put in a code that they receive by text message. So it's much harder to have a security of people arriving. But the way it works is they'll send the email, say, we want to pay for our reservation in Bitcoin. To make sure, because in our website right now it's reservations through US dollars. All we do is we create the QR code for the transaction, we send it to them. As soon as they make their payment, we receive the confirmation from mempool.space. There's a website that visualizes the whole blockchain. You can see everything that has ever happened in every Bitcoin wallet to every Bitcoin on this website. It pulls it directly into a Google Sheet for us, and from that we send an automated confirmation email. So that's your arrival. Once you do arrive, payments in the bar, in the restaurant, in the spa, everything goes to your account. And at checkout, you are presented with a QR code. The same thing, you just scan it, it opens immediately to your wallet, and you push confirm payment, and you're done.
So David, let me pick on you on the end. There's this thing called a wallet. So my wallet has cash in it. Bitcoin doesn't really have cash in it, does it? It's what? It's a cryptography? How does that work?
Yeah, of course. So for those unfamiliar with a wallet, think of it very much how you would expect a bank to operate. You will store your digital currency in there, in this case, Bitcoin. And with many wallets, there's very simple functionality where, let's say you deposit US dollars, you can convert it to Bitcoin, and it'll be stored there. One of the large advantages and the things you need to think about with a wallet is that it truly is a walking bank with you. So there is security that protects it. In many cases, very, very deep security cryptography, is used there to secure it. And I'll give you an example. Like I don't do anything that has less than 25 keywords on my wallet. So you wouldn't be able to guess it randomly. You wouldn't be able to just take my phone and access it. There's a lot of security that goes into it. But the reason it's so secure is because the moment someone has access to a wallet, they're virtually able to use and send and basically do anything with that wallet. So we see many companies today, especially in the United States, racing to figure out kind of what's the best place if we want to use and accept Bitcoin. How can we do that safely? What is kind of the best way to approach that? And so a wallet offers a lot of valuable services, but it's certainly a very key, vital part of security because all the Bitcoin on that wallet or any digital currency can be taken if it's penetrated or stolen.
And also, if David was going to stay at my hotel and he sends me even one Satoshi from his wallet, I then have the security of being able to see his wallet. I can see all of his transactions. And it doesn't matter to him because he's completely secure. He knows I can't take anything out of it. But for me as a vendor, if I'm worried about KYC, if I'm worried about money laundering, if I'm worried that he's not reserving with me anymore, but instead is staying at a different brand of a hotel, and I need to retarget him with advertising, I can go into his wallet and I can see what's going on. So it's completely transparent and completely secure, which has a lot of value for me as a vendor.
So wallet to wallet, you've got a wallet in the one or more wallets within the hotel that you're receiving this. Is each wallet like an account? How have you organized the receipt of Bitcoin into the hotel?
So the way that we report our Bitcoin earnings is with a total sum.
Okay.
But we have different wallet payment stations. The reason for that is that for smaller payments, you can use a secondary network called a Lightning Network, which doesn't require Wi-Fi. It doesn't require any time, and there's no fee on it. We use this for restaurant, bar, surf rentals, all of the smaller things that are more convenient to people who aren't spending a lot of money, or if they want to pay as they go, or if they want to give tips to the staff. Each staff member has a wallet where it says Garton plus their name on it to receive.
So if I'm a guest, if I wanted to tip somebody in a room, I would drop from my wallet into their wallet.
You just drop it directly. You have their name and you have Garton in front of it. You enter the name, and then you just put however much you have, which is...
So kind of a stronger visual here. There's a QR code for the staff person. I take out my phone that has my wallet, and I go blink, put a dollar amount in, and set.
Exactly.
Got it. So that's on the staff. So the staff's getting paid also. What's payroll look like? Because now you've got a big chunk of either your employees or certainly people around El Salvador that are carrying a Bitcoin wallet. How many are you paying payroll, and to what degree?
So this year our Christmas bonus is going to be in Bitcoin. Just for this year, until they finish setting up the regulatory framework, payroll, Social Security, insurance, and utility bills are still in dollars, but starting from next year, you'll be able to do everything in Bitcoin. You'll be able to cash out your pension in Bitcoin for the workers. So this year was the year that everyone saw that it works, and next year's the year where all the functionalities get built out.
Yeah. What are you doing with vendors?
With vendors, for now, most of them prefer to get paid in US dollars. The two vendors that we have paid in Bitcoin has been a design company and then our internet service provider, because they're ahead of the game.
They're nerds.
So,
Okay.
exactly.
Crowd of nerds. Okay. So,
What drives the preference? Is it volatility, like that they want the dollar?
No, it's because of the marginal cost of their business. So businesses that have a higher margin are more likely to accept in Bitcoin because they're preferring to hold it as an appreciating asset rather than to cash it out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, to that point, I check into the hotel, and those of you who've played with Bitcoin, it goes like this. And so they checked in, Bitcoin moved. To your advantage or disadvantage? What's your thinking on that? How are you hedging against that?
It generally doesn't matter because people that are using Bitcoin are the ones that are spending more in the hotel. So even if the price of Bitcoin goes down by 10 or 15%, we're going to catch that back by a bar spend or a tour to the volcano to see the Bitcoin mining there, or different things like that. So it's also a nice way to attract customers that are spending at least 50% of their room fee in the hotel, which is our target.
So when you look at staff, are they concerned about Bitcoin going up and down? So if you're going to pay me in Bitcoin, are you getting resistance on volatility or no?
Our staff is not worried because our microeconomy is in Bitcoin. So in El Zonte, which is the name of the town where the hotel is, we've been using Bitcoin for over 2 years. You can buy tortillas, you can buy minutas, which is the little shaved water ice on the beach. Everyone accepts Bitcoin and everyone prefers Bitcoin. If they do need to cash out, there's little cash drop boxes operated by the app partner. It's called Bitcoin Beach. They did a great job educating everyone. They can even they can earn Bitcoin by doing a Bitcoin education program through the app. So in our microeconomy, Bitcoin is 100% accepted and utilized, even to take a taxi to go to town, to get to the Western Union to pick up money.
Right.
That taxi now accepts Bitcoin. So this whole thing is
So this is a regulatory thing, and I'll kind of point it to both of you, but I have an employee, I'm working there, and they're sending the money to, pick it, Honduras or wherever. Do you see much of that with your employees today, or are they all really more domestic? And then what are the implications? Because really one of the big crypto things right now is, yeah, I can ship money pretty much frictionlessly, is that a word? And avoid Western Union and all of the remittance trouble. So what's happening with the hotels, and what should be a consideration if you're running a hotel with overseas remittances?
So El Salvador is a net importer of remittances. So in general, you see a lot of people now in the US, Salvadorians, are going to the Chivo ATM in Washington, D.C. or Chicago, or I think there's one in New York, and using that to send money fee-free to their relatives in El Salvador. I imagine other countries will have difficulty in capital flight, but since El Salvador uses the US dollar, it's not as big of an issue.
In the US, it wouldn't be, well, let me take that question in two parts. It would be difficult if you were using your own proprietary software. So if you were allowing your employees to transfer that Bitcoin earning on your software, then it would be a high regulatory hurdle for you to meet. Like you'd have to, your hotel would have to be licensed as various entities in order to accomplish that legally in the US. What you would happen here is that you would pay out the employee would get it in their wallet that's hosted on a different app or different software, a different exchange, and then they would send it to wherever they wanted to. The entities that you use to do that within the US are all licensed, so we're not concerned about BSA, AML, and KYC. It wouldn't be upon the hotel.
So it's possible.
It's very possible. To do what Bo's doing in El Salvador and in the US is not only possible, but it's being done in multiple industries currently in today's environment. It gets problematic with how efficient can you be in the US, because in El Salvador, what's the app called?
Chivo.
Giro, like we don't have an equivalent for Giro. So like if you were a national hotel chain, are you going to create your own software to take place of Giro? There is no US equivalent. Are you going to use one that's currently back-ended on to a US depository, which is what you'd most likely have to do. So it wouldn't be as easily adopted in the US currently because of the regulatory burden on the hospitality industry. They wouldn't want to build it out themselves just yet.
Right. So I'm going to ask what I'm not supposed to ask. So what are you doing with the Bitcoin, Bo?
Yeah. No, so the nice thing about holding in Bitcoin is you get to see the payments that were made to you in November of 2019 are now 6 times more valuable than when you received them. In El Salvador, you don't have a stock exchange where you can put your extra money from your company to make yield on cash that you're holding. You can really only buy real estate is the only way to do that. But now any cash that you have that you don't need, you can hold it in Bitcoin. And if you do have a bullish take on it, which I do, you essentially have a financially appreciating asset. So we're firmly holding all the Bitcoin that we receive since it fits into our margin.
So this comes back into a wallet chit chat. So do you want all that on your phone? I'll call it a hot wallet, if you will, or on your laptop, or do you want it in some sort of custodial service? And so David, what's a custodial? We have different things. You have hardware wallets. If you ever see them, little USB drives. You can have a software wallet in your browser, different levels of security. But when you start getting up in this, you get into a custodial story. What's that about?
Yeah, of course. So I want to kind of build a little bit on what Bo mentioned here, where, it's one thing to accept Bitcoin as a payment. It's now a question of where do you store it and what do you do with it? And everyone is aware of the price volatility, so it's great when it multiplies in value, but I'm sure it doesn't feel very good to know that your revenue was cut in half because Bitcoin's down 50%. So a little bit of the interesting part about 2021 so far has really been the growth of regulated products to kind of support Bitcoin. And that comes from both a custodian perspective as well as kind of, futures and things of that nature to kind of hedge your cash flows and your exposure. So when it comes to the custodian side, there are kind of two large United States companies I think of. Many of you may have heard of them, Gemini and Coinbase. And both of them offer institutional services where they basically allow all of the, complications or risk or security measures to be handled by them. So they will give you the wallet code. They'll basically let anyone send money to that. But as a result, they'll make sure that not only is it secured and stored safely, but they offer insurance on it. That's how confident they are. So you don't have to worry about your Bitcoin getting stolen or things of that nature. Additionally, we're starting to even see a trend where you can take the Bitcoin that you've collected, say 100 Bitcoin for a large enterprise company they collected in a month, and you can actually earn interest on it. And so you can start to see it's a little bit of an economy inside of itself. But today, we're definitely early. You see a lot of growth in the asset class of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. And so these custodian services are working on different ways to be approachable and easier for enterprises to actually access. But today, it's quite easy and amazing. For very low cost, they're able to handle all of the excess risk that you would have to take on as a company by trying to figure out which wallet do we set up and all of these other kind of complications. So I think in the United States, you'll start to see those names pop up a lot more where Coinbase and Gemini are securing a lot of the kind of wallets for these large enterprises.
So bottom line, it's getting harder to lose your Bitcoin, particularly if you're hiring out. It's not impossible, but I don't think it's impossible on, pick your financial advisor's site also. Okay, so this is all stacking up. Craig, let me go to you. So you're a fintech lawyer and you're focused on all of this stuff. Bo, actually two things. First of all, Bo wants to bring money into the country, right, from here. And so bringing money, Bitcoin into the country, how does that work and what are the tax and regulatory requirements for doing that? Then the second thing is going to be, let's suppose out here I've got some hoteliers. They want to start, basically running, basically revenue as Bitcoin and payments as Bitcoin. What do they have to start thinking about from a tax standpoint or regulatory controls?
We'll start off with the first question. How do you onshore Bitcoin from a foreign country? You'd have to come through, if you're going to do everything above board, you'd have to do it through a US-based exchange. So we mentioned Coinbase or Gemini. When you log on to those exchanges, if you want to sell it or transfer it within the US, you're onboarding just like you would a normal bank account or a depository in the US. You're getting the information to do the BSA AML checks so you know which individual it was. What I always like to kind of get out there is that there's a narrative in the US that Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in general is something that is fueling, black market activity or fueling, illegal activity. Because it's very anonymous. That's just not the case with cryptocurrency. Bo mentioned earlier, you can look into someone else's wallet and see where
it's quasi-anonymous, as they say. Yeah.
I am now of the mindset that cash is more friendly to money laundering and AML violations than cryptocurrency is. I do not have worry about bringing that into the U.S. In fact, there's pushes within the U.S. for a US-based stable coin because they want that kind of insight into how that technology is going to work. So that's bringing it onshore. Once you have it here in the US, what you do with it as a hotel, for example, if you're going to accept it, we have a lot of clients right now that will accept Bitcoin or accept cryptocurrency. Most of them are liquidating it the second they get it in. They don't want to deal with the price volatility. They're accepting it as forms of payment, almost as marketing to a younger generation.
Immediately going to dollars. But let me ask a question. There's a difference between El Salvador and the U.S. Are you taxed on the appreciation of your Bitcoin?
No, we just pay a 13% VAT tax on all transactions like normal, and then once it's declared as yours, it's yours.
But the U.S. government considers this a digital asset, digital gold, if
Yeah,
you will.
that's part of the problem.
So you have a capital gains on it.
Yeah, and depending on how long you hold it or how what you're doing with it. So in
This
the
is
U.S.,
personal investment news, too, for those of you out there that are rolling the dice.
in the U.S., part of the problem is even the regulators can't really agree, what a
What is
digital
it?
asset
Yeah.
is. The IRS looks at it like property, FinCEN looks at it as currency, the SEC looks at it as a security or an equity, the CFTC looks at it as a commodity. So like everyone has their own view of it, and it's taxed as that view depending on what regulator you're in front of.
So if you're a CFO in the U.S.,
You don't want to hold it generally.
you don't want to hold it. So you're just going to pass it right through and not fiddle around.
Or move it over to
Yeah,
David.
custodian or something, yeah.
Right.
And we see this, we actually have a lot of large corporate balance sheets. My company, we invest in companies that have a lot of cryptocurrency on their balance sheet. And so, you're talking about companies that have thousands and thousands of Bitcoin, and they are storing it. And in fact, if you listen to the transcripts of these CEO calls, they're probably more bullish than anyone else on stage here, where they really do think holding this is going to be the future, and they really are aggressively keeping any Bitcoin they have. And so with the kind of custodian issue there, if you tried to do it yourself, you're gonna run into a little bit of a tax issue where a payment sent to you where Bitcoin is at $50,000 is gonna be taxed differently than the payment that's sent at $50,001. And so you don't really want to have those hassles, and the custodians really reduce that kind of friction. But of course, it's necessary for you and your team and the CFO to understand what is the implication of holding this currency if it does appreciate in value. Are we going to have an unnecessary tax burden? And today it's certainly taxed a little bit differently than I think everyone wants it to be. But it's a new nascent asset class, and we kind of expect those things to change in the future.
So let me drag it back to you, Bo. So I'm pretty sure I've been around this industry quite a long time. I don't know that there are any products in this industry that support Bitcoin. So obviously you've got some sort of off-book effort going on and feeding into your systems, financial, property, whatever. Can you kind of talk through, let's first of all just do all the guest experience, point of sale, lodging and all of that. How's that working? You mentioned a product. What was that again, and how does that all flow in?
Yeah, any technology people out there. I already spoke with SoftTech, actually, trying to get what we need. So you kind of have three sides, and you need the connector nozzle in the middle for all three. But what you do is you go online, you go to reserve through our booking engine. But in order to pay in Bitcoin, you aren't able to do that through our booking engine because that's managed by Stripe, which doesn't currently accept Bitcoin. So you just email us and say, I'd like to reserve, and that's how we send you the QR code. The QR code payment for 50%, once that's paid, you're automatically added into our booking engine. You automatically receive your booking confirmation email. But there is a gap that we need to get through. Your invoice includes the QR code of the transaction code, the value in USD of the Bitcoin at that time. In case in the US you need to declare business expenses or anything like that. And in our system, it shows all of that, plus the current value of that Bitcoin that you paid today. So if you paid a month ago, it shows the amount that you paid at that time, and then also the amount that's there.
Can I ask a question? Because that's interesting. So what are you relying on Stripe for in that model?
Stripe is our pre-existing payment processing system.
They're not actually handling the transfer of the crypto.
No.
Okay.
For crypto, we have 3 levels of wallets. The first is for smaller transactions, Lightning. That's called Bitcoin Beach. Bitcoin Beach is also integrated with Strike, Mooncoin, all of the main players that you have. We have Chivo Wallet, which is the government wallet, and then we have a fully anonymous wallet through Bread, BRD. This is my favorite wallet. They have a great service, totally secure. You can convert whatever you want.
This is the wallets you're managing, not the ones your guests are coming at you with.
Exactly. So, and in those 3 levels, I allow our employees to have access to the Lightning one. Once our Lightning wallet gets above $1,000 in value, I transfer it over onto the blockchain of our official one, which we then report. And that's when I take full control and move it up. So that way it's user-friendly in case I'm not there for transactions up to $1,000, and then we move it over.
So you
for
basically have
security.
a hierarchy of wallets where you're just moving things up, and then at some point you're dropping that into your core financial system.
Right.
So when they did that booking, remind me again, who owns the kind of, who's arbitraging on this thing if the Bitcoin moves between the booking and the guest checking out? Who's owning that risk? You are?
Well, it depends if they've paid 100% upfront or 50% upfront.
Assume 50%. So 50%, and then Bitcoin moves. Their problem, your problem.
It depends which option they take. We have pricing in Bitcoin
Okay.
for our Bitcoin tours, which let you go and talk to all the vendors and has actually really helped us bring in talented Bitcoin individuals who are programming and working in the space and want to do that because it's like, this is a real Bitcoin priced product, or it's priced in US dollars and we assume the risk in that case. So it goes either way, depending which option the guest prefers.
Got it. How about payroll system integration? What's to be known there?
In what way?
If you're paying somebody in Bitcoin, their salary, their wage, are you doing any sort of integrations there? Is there some sort of reporting structure on top of this?
Yeah, absolutely, because the Salvadorian government wants to make sure that we're paying our workers and that we're paying our taxes and everything.
Yeah.
So they have a reporting system where you submit all of your transactions. The way that it's going to work next year is that we're basically going to do a print screen of our payroll, which is every 2 weeks, a print screen of our tips payroll, which is every 2 weeks. We submit that online, and then it gets a checkmark certification of approval after 5 days.
Okay. And vendor transactions, all the other stuff. This sounds like it's a lot of manual work at this point, or at least the roll-up.
The thing to understand is it's a lot less work than dealing with the banks in El Salvador. We hosted the Australian Olympic surfing team for the World Surf Championship, and they needed to transfer us $12,000 to confirm their reservation. The Swift code bank account said, Team Australia Surf. Our bank was going to send the money back because I didn't come in and provide printed on paper email correspondence, a quote in Spanish to the Australian people, and a payment confirmation back in Spanish from them. So I had to make all of these documents that were in reality
This
not
is just
real.
this is the money laundering laws,
Just,
basically?
yeah, just to bring this money into the country. Whereas when we had the Bitcoin conference staying with us, I sent a WhatsApp message with the transaction code to the person managing it. 20 seconds later, we had the full amount in our account without any fees. And then we just made an invoice in, 3 minutes and sent it to them. So we're going to roll it up so that it's fully automated, but for now it's so much easier than traditional banking.
Cool. Yeah. We're just going to have a couple minutes, but if somebody has some questions, maybe we try to grab a mic or something. But Craig, let me just do one thing. When it comes to reporting in the US, let's just kind of come back here. What are the changes in the information systems and taxable reporting requirements that you think are going to get driven by this? Let's suppose, again, outside of the standard, obviously, how's the CFO going to have to change their behavior?
You mean for the, in the use case where you're taking it as a payment? And
Yeah.
How you would report that as earnings? What is your...
If you went down a level, though, is there anything else with Bitcoin that you see regulatory-wise that the U.S. is pushing on?
There's, on multiple fronts. There'd be issues in Bo's model here for payroll, for example. Like you can't pay there's various states where it wouldn't be illegal to pay more than 25% in Bitcoin, or wouldn't be able to pay in Bitcoin at all. On the federal level, it's fine. Reporting it as income or or when you book that as revenue becomes problematic in the U.S. Just because of the volatility and the liquidity of a Bitcoin. how are you reporting it on your SEC filings if you're a public company? Are you holding so much in Bitcoin where it's a material impact, the volatility itself? As far as income, it depends on what you're doing with it. If you're not liquidating it immediately or not giving it over custody over to entities like David's, are you speculating in it? It becomes problematic for like those instances in the U.S.
So if you're, again, in the US, if you're keeping the Bitcoin and you're using it as an investment strategy, that's a whole.
So long as you're holding it and it's fluctuating, you're holding it as an investment.
Okay. So are there any questions out there? Otherwise, I have some. You. Hi, Mark. Talk loud. Oh, wait. Microphone coming.
The vast majority of the hoteliers in this room have been victimized by ransomware. Cryptocurrencies are the enabling technology that make ransomware possible. What are the risks to cryptocurrencies as an investment or as a currency strategy of governments possibly quashing that trade?
Victimized by what?
Ransomware.
Ransom-
So is there a higher risk here in the nature of this?
Yeah, I think I can take a little bit of this. I mean, first of all, it's important to note that especially with something like Bitcoin, as mentioned on this panel, it's a little bit difficult even for governments to stop that. So I think if you're speaking on the perspective that ransomware commonly uses Bitcoin as a transaction, that certainly occurs, although I think that speaks a little bit more to the security risks, right, that people may encounter when they download or have ransomware. Actually, Bitcoin itself, from a security standpoint, once it's in your digital wallet, for example, you won't have any issues where someone can, hack into that wallet necessarily. It's extremely secure to the point where, there is that element we keep mentioning on here that it's transparent. If I were to send a Bitcoin today to Bo, my public wallet address is out there. You can see every transaction I've ever done. However, my name isn't attached to it, and even if you knew that was my public wallet, it's impossible for you to guess the 25 random unique words to get into my wallet. At least, with current day processing power, I think it would take you billions of years. So certainly today it's relatively secure. And that's one of the things that I think the early Bitcoin industry suffered from was a lot of ransomware attacks and things where people used it for illicit activities. I think the asset class, when I talk to financial advisors today, they see it as an emerging, clients are asking about it. People my age are certainly buying Bitcoin. And so I think from a customer experience, if you're considering it for your hotel, is what's the easiest method for people to buy with? And I think it's going to be a one-click, I own Bitcoin, I want to immediately book something with it, versus having to take that Bitcoin, sell it to a currency, wait for my banking institution, and then book something. And so I think it's just an emerging trend, and the question's truly going to become, will you adapt to it or not?
Cool. We are out of time. We'll be over here if somebody wants to chat things up. I mean, I would just close by saying, that old saying, right? The future is here now, it's just not evenly distributed. And Bo, you're ground zero for something pretty cool in the hospitality industry. So congratulations. All right, thank you, everybody.